Hi, welcome to Let's Paint Live. My name's Tamara here at Plaid, and I am going to be teaching you how to paint this adorable painting perfect for the end of summer, Mushroom Magic, using our Let's Paint Live kit, which contains all the colors and brushes that you'll need to complete this, and you'll be able to finish this painting in about an hour.
We'll be answering any questions. We've got the kit available in the comments, so let us know if you have any other questions.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with a background first, and I'm doing an ombre, but instead of going in straight in with the white, to get a softer fade, I'm starting with true blue at the top and then fading into linen towards the bottom. So it's a nice easy start, nice easy break into the painting here. And if you want to make your paintings really nice, as you're painting, go ahead and paint the edges so it's ready to hang when you're done. I'm going to go about halfway down with the true blue and then start blending in the linen to lighten near the horizon. Get a good little bit of atmospheric perspective. You want to work kind of quickly so that the acrylic paint dries pretty quickly, so you want to work fast so that you can get a nice blend going before your paint starts to dry. So now I'm getting close to halfway. I'm going to pick up true blue and linen, which I've placed side by side on the palette, and start working that in here. And when I'm blending, I like to blend up a little bit into the colors to kind of help build that gradient as we go down. And the blue is a bolder color, so you'll want a little bit more linen than blue as you start blending in. And as we get to this bottom part, quite a bit more linen than blue. And you can go ahead and paint to the bottom. You don't have to paint the bottom edge because that will have grass later. And then one thing that we can do before the background dries is I'm going to come in with a little bit of a smaller brush, and I'm going to take just some linen here and pick a few places in the sky that you can sort of take your brush and spin it to create a little blended area. And we'll put those stars in there later, and it'll be a nice little blend, and when you put the highlights in, it'll really make those stars pop. We're not going to add the white right now. We're going to wait till that's dry. All right, so when you get to this point, you want to either take a break or use a hair dryer to dry the painting a little bit. We want to paint the whole background so we don't get a weird halo around the mushroom. So we are...
Grab you one. Sorry about that.
I have a little heat gun on the way here. So this is you can use a hair dryer, you can use our heat tool, or it's a good time to take a break and grab a snack and just let this background dry. We're going to go ahead and speed this along a little bit. Thank you. So that's just about dry. I'm going to go ahead and give that a second and put out the colors that we'll need to start painting our mushroom. So we already have some linen here. We'll definitely be using that. And we'll also use some yellow ochre for a little bit of blending. And I'm putting this next to the linen because I know I'm going to be using those two colors together a lot. And then I will also take a little bit of orange, of the pure orange, and some of the apple red. Now I'll put out the green later. We're going to do that part last. But you'll see in this painting some of the darker areas. What I've done to get those shadows, instead of using black, which can make it a little bit muddy, I'm actually using navy blue. And I will mix some of the navy blue in with the red and into the linen underneath the mushroom. I'm just going to put it up here next to the blue for now. And we'll come back with the greens and the yellows later. All right, so for the mushroom, you don't have to know how to draw one to do this. I'm going to take a little bit of the red and we're just going to sketch out a blobby triangle. And mushrooms are a thing in nature. They don't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the perfect mushroom shape. So you can start by just sketching a triangle about in the middle of your canvas. And then you can kind of just go in and add some waves to it for the side, a little curve around the side, a little curve around the top. And I'm just doing this with a little bit of red paint just to like lay it out. You don't have to go in with your full thickness here. And when you have your nice little blobby triangle mushroom top and you're feeling good about the shape, you can go in and add some more paint. Now I don't want to use just red here. I'm really trying to give this a warm like feel and glow. So I'm going to use yellow ochre to blend it into the red. And I like to use my bigger brush for this, but if you feel a little more comfortable, you can use a smaller brush to add in your color here. But the yellow ochre is going to really warm up that red.
Tamara, you have a nice compliment. Tamara, this painting is so beautiful. I'm so excited to recreate it.
Oh, thank you. So So I'm going in here with the yellow ochre, warming this up. And now that I have a pretty good shape that I like, I'm going to add a little wiggliness to the bottom. The acrylic paint. Now here I am going to switch to my smaller brush just to get a little more control over where the colors go. So I have the warmed up red base layer, and now I'm going to go in and add some apple red back into this. And I'm kind of going in like very loose brush strokes. We want a really painterly style. And not too perfect, a little messy. It gives it that nice painting feel. And I'm really just kind of blending into all of this, but I'm keeping the top part a little bit lighter than the bottom. Don't worry about that dark side, we'll get to that in a moment. Just make sure as you're blending in those colors that you do get to the edge so you don't have a halo. And we're going to build up a little bit of red with a little bit of ochre until we have a nice warm blobby mushroom. Just adding a little more texture here, keeping that lighter color towards the top. And then for a little bit of fun texture, I'm going to take some of the red and some of the orange just to add a little color interest in here and just blend it in. Because nature is not usually in a flat color. It's going to have lots of shades mixed in. In this part, you can just have fun with it. Just when you're painting it, think about the shape of the mushroom. So at the bottom, I'm painting in curves, almost like a parenthesis shape, to mimic the feeling of roundness. And with having your brush strokes follow in the direction that the object would go, it lends itself a little bit more to feeling 3D. Once you have your basic colors in here, you're going to take whatever red combination is on your brush and grab some of this navy from the top here. I'm going to go down here next to my red so I can mix a little bit more of navy and red in this. And what you're going to get is a super dark, almost brownish blue. And this is going to be a really nice way to add some shadow and a little bit of outlining to your painting without overpowering it with black. So I've mixed my red and my navy together down here. I'm going to wipe some of the extra paint off so that it's not too heavy. And then you can actually come back to your paper towel where you've wiped it and just pick a little bit more back up. And so what I'm going to do is focusing on the bottom side of the mushroom as we imagine it's outside at night. You've maybe got the moon going up here. I just realized I've got some water on my paint. So you're going to take that navy and red mixture, and I'm going to very gently start by just almost like I'm outlining this shape, and I'm just dropping in some of this color in the wet paint. I'm keeping it all towards the bottom of the mushroom. And don't drag it too far up right now. We're just trying to lay in a little bit of shadow. I'm keeping this all on the bottom. If you want a little bit on one side, pick one side or the other, and maybe just add a tiny bit just for a little bit more dimension. And you want to blend this into your red. And if it starts getting too heavy, you can just wipe off your brush, clean off your brush, and grab some more red. And we're just going to gently blend that in. I like to use kind of long brush strokes that are following the shape. Just gives it a nice feel. And we're just gently blending in that shadowed color using the parenthesis shape to mimic the roundness of a mushroom. And adding a little bit more shadow to the very bottom. And what we're working on right now is this part. We're not doing the underneath part just yet. We're kind of just working on this outside round shape. So once you get your basic mushroom head, your first layer of your mushroom top here, you're going to go ahead and clean off your paintbrush. You want to try and get most of the blue off of it as we start going into the stalk. So for the stalk of the mushroom, I'm working a lot in this linen color. And we're going to start with the linen and we're going to sketch out the shape. And the great thing is it's just 2 lines down. Don't worry if you can't draw a line because it's not straight lines. So you're going to pop in 2 lines where you'd like the mushroom stalk to be, and you're going to go ahead and just kind of loosely paint it in. And what we want to do is, as we get towards the bottom, we want to have that parentheses shape again. So because they tend to sort of bulb out at the bottom, so you're going to paint 2 parentheses, a left and a right on each side of the bottom, and we are going to loosely fill that in with linen, and we are going to warm it up with some of our yellow ochre again. By using similar colors throughout all of our blending in the painting, it really helps you create a unified piece. Once you're happy with the general shape, you can go ahead and lay that paint on there. If you don't have to worry about getting it too perfect at the top, we can always go back over that. We're just going to blend this in. Now the bottom of this is going to be covered by grass, so you don't have to worry about getting the bottom perfect. I'm going to add a little bit more ochre just to warm it up. And I'm kind of keeping like my extra shadow on the left side. Whatever side you picked for the top of your mushroom, that's where you want to keep the darker shades on the bottom as well. So I'm adding a little extra yellow ochre to the left side and using these brush strokes that follow the shape of the mushroom. Now, I'm not an expert, so I don't know what that part is called that sort of peels off. But I'll take some more of my yellow ochre and my linen and kind of pick about the halfway point. And what you're going to do is you're just going to come down and then you're just going to flare it just a little bit, like a little mushroom skirt. And then you can take your brush and pull up, and now you have set the stage for that flared out section. And we'll add more highlights to this later, but go ahead and add a little extra yellow ochre a little bit towards the top where it's under the mushroom. And then grab some more, and then underneath where you've put your little mushroom skirt, take a little bit more, and we're just creating a little bit of shadow by darkening that color. I think I want to add a little bit more drama to my mushroom skirt here. Now where the mushroom flares out on this part right here, it would be a little bit lighter because it's curled up and catching the light. So just take a little bit more of that linen and just above the skirt, just do some brush strokes up. This is really subtle, but it'll all come together in the end. It's going to help with that layering. So here we want to start working in this underneath part. So I'm going to go in with the linen to start. It's okay if the red is a little bit wet. It's okay for the colors to blend here because we are trying to create that shadow. So I'll start with some linen and some yellow ochre, and I'm going to go to the bottom, and you can see here it's almost like a really stretched out W. So we're going to start at the bottom, and we're going to come up, and then we're going to wave back down, and I'm just dragging my paint through these colors. And the beauty of it is that the paint, because the paint is wet, it's blending your paint a little bit, and it's helping to contribute to that intense shadowy color. So I'm just dragging this through, setting the stage here for that shadow. And I like to take a little bit of this navy. Don't do too much because it will overpower. Taking a little bit of the navy, and just to tie all the colors together, I am dragging that navy through as well. That's really going to neutralize the red in that blend and also just contribute to the darker color. Now to get the continued 3D shape, take a little bit more, and instead of crossing over your mushroom stalk like we do here, you're going to go just a little bit under it. So you're helping to make it feel 3D by showing that this goes around the back of your mushroom. All right, so I'm going to get some of this excess paint off. Doesn't have to be perfectly clean because we're going to work in the similar colors. So I'm going to come back now that I've kind of outlined the underneath fleshy part. I'm going to take some of my red and ochre here with just a touch of this darker color that I made before with the shadows. So you're getting kind of something just a bit lighter than your shadows you made before. So I'm going to start on this part of the mushroom that I've already done, and I'm going to hold my brush at an angle so the line follows the outside, and I'm just going to take it and I'm just going to swoop down, and you really want to try and do this in one brush stroke if you can, so it doesn't get too heavy. We're trying to keep it kind of thin here. And then I'm going to come back on this side and just round this out. And I'm dragging this darker color back on this corner to kind of emphasize the shadow. And then I'm going to come over here and do the same thing on the other side. Let it mix in with those colors. And I'm just blending in some of the red and ochre mixture to soften any hard lines in those shadows. Your mushroom's still probably a little wet at this point. That is actually going to be helpful. So don't worry about making this part dry before you work on it. The more blending you get in these colors, the better it looks. So I have some of this dark shadow mixture here. And while I'm here, I'm just going to take my brush and almost like tiny little commas or parentheses, turn your brush sideways so it makes a line. And then I'm just gently curving the line as like a place and a drag. And we're just implying those lines that are underneath the mushrooms. And I'm just little commas, little parentheses, all in there. So I'm going to just clean some of this red out now and come back in here with a little bit more of the navy red ochre mixture. We're making a kind of color to define the outlines. So this works really well if you do it in sort of one line so the lines don't get too heavy. So just take your time, decide on placement, and I'm going to come right here on the side. And the trick to getting the line to end pointy is as you pull, you're going to lift away so that by the time you draw down to the bottom and you're lifting up, you don't get a blob of paint on the end of your line. So I'm going to take my brush flat here, make a line, and then when I'm ready to stop, I lift up my brush. That's how you can get the line without having a blob on the end. It makes your lines feel a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Come down, drag, and pull up with our neutral shade we've made here. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom part of the mushroom. Going to drag and pull. This part is a little less stressful because it is going to be covered by green. I'm a big fan of working with the small flat brushes. If you feel a little bit better, you can try it with a small round brush, but I find that you actually get better lines with a flat brush because it's already in that line shape. So I'm going to go on the little skirt here, and I'm just going to add those ruffles, and they're just like little swoops. Little swoops on the bottom using the darker color, neutral color we've made. I feel like the underneath of the mushroom could be a little bit darker, so while I'm working in this color, I'm just going to make a little bit more. And you're really keeping this focused on the red, the ochre, and the navy. Blue and orange are complements, so when you put them together, they make a really good neutral. So I'm going to go in, and I think this could just use maybe a little bit more shadow here and there. Don't worry if it's not exactly on the line. You're just trying to get the shapes and the shadows in here. And I just want to darken this bottom part of the mushroom a little bit more, the part that's behind, just to push it further back. Now here, at this point, before we go into adding in the grass and the spots, you might want your painting to be dry, and if you've painted thick here and it hasn't quite dried, you can just blast it a little bit with a hairdryer, get it a little more dry, and then we're going to move into all of our top level details. Okay, so just giving that a little blast with the hairdryer to make sure the red's not too wet. A little color bleeding through isn't going to hurt, but for this part we want it to be kind of dry. So we're going to start with the linen, and I'm taking my smaller flat brush, and we want to have blobs. You don't want anything too neat. This is nature. It doesn't have to be perfect circles. So I'm getting a pretty decent amount of the linen on my brush, and you can strategically place these. So you've seen when you're painting and you notice that in some of the blending you may have pulled up some color before. This is a great way to cover any sketchy brush strokes or brush strokes you don't like. So like I feel like this is a little bit darker than I want it to be, and so I'm just going to kind of blob some linen on there. You do want to make one or two of them kind of bigger. So yeah, just pick a couple of places and just do some blobs. I think I really like this spot. Maybe I'll go down here. I'm not doing perfect shapes. I'm literally just blobbing some paint on here. Now to do smaller ones, take your flat brush and turn it sideways, and then you can just kind of blob it down at an angle and get some smaller dots. Go crazy, have as many as you want. I like to go sort of a medium amount. I think that looks good for this guy. So you don't even have to clean out your brush. I'm just going to wipe some of the excess paint off. And now we're going to go in and we're going to warm these up a little bit. So with the linen still on your brush, you'll take a little bit of the yellow ochre and just right into the wet paint. We're just going to, we're going to keep this focused shadow on the left side. We're going to keep the darker parts of the dots on the left just to be consistent. So I'm just going to take some of this and I'm just going to smush it onto the left side of each spot. Use the corner of your brush for the smaller areas. If you have a bigger one, you can use your whole brush. And we're not going for perfection here, we're going for nature. Now, to add a little more highlight, I'm actually going to grab my white paint and I'll put it here next to the linen. Put a little bit of white paint here. Now just to brighten it up a little. So now we're kind of putting in the brightest parts of the painting. This is going to make these areas stand out a little bit more. So I'm taking the brush that already had linen and yellow ochre on it and I'm just putting some white on it. And now you're going to go on the opposite side. You're just going to add in a little gentle highlight, and you'll see that by adding the pure white when we've been working with linen all this time, it really helps those highlights pop a little bit more. Just sort of gently blend it in there. So now we have a little bit of highlight here. So while you already have this white blended in, we're going to come back to where we painted the flare skirt on the mushroom here. I'm going to pick up a little bit of linen to go with this ochre so they go together. And by brightening this color up, and nothing too crazy, you're just going to take your brush and you're just going to add a little swoop. And so you're going to place and flick up and pull up on your brush. And that's how you can get those great angles, having it come to a point that helps feel 3D. And then I'm going to take just a little bit on the bottom here. Nothing too much because this is lower and would be more shaded. If you feel like you've pushed a highlight too far, just grab a little yellow ochre, blend it in, and yeah, to darken it, add more yellow ochre. To lighten it, add more white, and just place and pull. Before we get to the grass, we're going to do a really fun part. You don't even have to change brushes for this. Go ahead and clean it off so you don't accidentally get paint on your hands. You're actually going to turn your brush upside down and you are going to dip it into the white paint. Now when you do this, just keep in mind that the first time you place your brush down, the stars will be bigger. So start with the pre-highlighted areas you made. Those are going to have the most paint on it, and I'm just wiggling it around to really give it some size. So anywhere where you placed a little glow before, you want to make sure you have a star, and then as you have less paint, you can just dot a few more stars around. The trick with stars, don't let them look too even. Don't make them evenly spaced, and don't put them all in the same direction. So sometimes this means like just very quickly, 1, 2, 3. You know, don't think about it. If you place them too even, it might start to feel a little bit more like snow. So starting here again, start with the part where you've already put a little glow in, And then we're just going to add a few more. You don't have to jam it into your painting. A gentle press will do. And don't forget to get close to your mushroom so you don't have a weird halo around it. Oh, look at that. And I'm just gently pressing. Don't try to stab a hole in your canvas. So you might want to wipe that end of that brush off with a paper towel so you don't get paint on your hands later. So now that we have put in our stars, I'm going to come back in. We haven't used these colors yet. We're going to bring out the thicket and the classic green. And you don't need a whole lot because we're just doing the grass. But I am going to put them next to each other. Now I'm going to start with the big brush here to really get some color and some coverage on. I'm going to go in with the thicket first, and I'm going to just start filling in the space. We're just wanting to cover the white to make sure when we start painting in our strokes of grass that all the white is pretty much covered. So this won't really be super visible on your painting, but it will help you, like, once you start putting in your strokes for your grass, just making sure that no stray white is peeking in and disrupting that darker space. So I'm just getting a loose coat of the thicket green on here. Good time to paint your edges to match. So now we've got that covered. This is where you can really have fun with it. I'm also going to put out a little bit of daffodil yellow here. I'm going to put it right next to the classic green. And remember, we also have our yellow ochre and our thicket up here too. So to start in with the brush strokes, I'm going to start with just a little bit of a mixture of the thicket and the classic green. And start from the bottom and work your way up. So a really great way to do this is start with your brush flat like this and then turn it. And we're not going to use the big brush the whole time. We're just going to get started here. If you want to start from the top, start with your brush straight up and down and then pull down. We're just building sort of the background of our grass here. I'm just pulling up and turning my brush to make a point. Now that we've got the base in, I'm going to switch back to my smaller brush. That way we can have a little bit more control over the paint. I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow too. So we're using thicket, classic green, and daffodil yellow. This is sort of our base color, and then we're going to layer in everything around it. So just have like a lot of loose fun with this. We're not going to go straight up and down to give it that dreamy feel. We're going to add a lot of curves and swaying in our grasses. Not fully an S, but like you've taken an S and you've stretched it out. So we're just going to come up here and just twirl. If you add a little more yellow to the top, it feels a little bit brighter. And you don't have to try and save your stars. Like, I already caught myself feeling like I needed to not go over that star, but that's just the way that it is when you're painting. Like, you start with something and it's going to feel better sometimes to go a completely different direction. Now I'm painting the grass with a little bit of thicker paint to have that kind of lush texture. So this part will take the longest to dry, but you'll be done with your painting and you can let it rest overnight, so it's not a big deal. So just going in with sort of a not super mixed combination of our two greens and our yellow, and just pull up and lift away from your canvas. Starting in with a little more yellow, and do the same thing here, except for I'm going to start this way and come down and blend down. And you even want to get some of your grass going in front of your mushroom. This is why I was saying the bottom of the mushroom didn't matter too much. So it's the same concept. You're going to start sideways and pull up. And this is the part we have to accept. Once you put that green over there, that's where that grass is. So just let it cover the bottom. Don't try to paint over it, because you'll have this thicker paint with the grass and it will look like you painted over something here. I think I want to do a nice curly one here. And for more highlighted, I'm just picking up a little extra yellow and I'm starting at the top. This is not a perfectly manicured lawn. If you want to be really fancy, you could put a blade or two of grass on the side of your canvas. Continue that lawn over to the side so when you hang it, it's complete. So just keep layering in. Let your brush stroke show. That's part of the magic of painting. And we're going to get a nice lush lawn going here. If you feel like there's a lot of paint on your brush, you can just wipe some of the excess off. And I just want to add a little more highlights, and just to bring in that linen from before, I'll just grab a little bit of linen and a little bit of white and bring it down here to my yellow. And this is where we're going to get our brightest highlights on the grass. And I'm adding a little bit of like curly fun into the grass here. Right, sometimes the best part is knowing when to put the brush down. Once you have a pretty good amount of grass going, just stop putting in the grass or you're just going to smush all of the paint together. So just look over it one last time if you feel like you need a little more touch on the highlights, but you're pretty much done now. This is how you can paint your own mushroom in less than an hour with our Let's Paint Live kit. Have there been any other questions?
No, I don't think so. So thank you guys so much for watching, and this will be available on YouTube within the next few days.
Okay. Thank you guys.
Bye guys.